Hey everybody on YouTube, Karl Alexander here, and in today's video, I thought I would take a minute to talk about Ryzen and some of the so-called controversy that's being attached to it. Now, I had planned to make a quick video before Ryzen came out about AMD's marketing tactics, but I got kind of busy. So here we are after launch, and there is some serious infighting going on between Intel and AMD enthusiasts. I made a video a few months back on why I was switching to Intel, and even that video with only about 1,000 views created some harsh comments. So basically in this video, I just wanted to share my take on the Ryzen launch. First up, I want to talk about AMD's hype train and the marketing of Ryzen. If you're familiar with PC hardware at all, then surely you've been hearing about Ryzen for months. I started hearing these rumors back in July of 2016 when I bought my GTX 1070. For some context, up until this January, every PC I ever made used AMD chips, so I was on board with waiting on Zen. However, towards the end of the year, AMD began showing off benchmarks and talking up its potential compared to Intel's Broadwell E platform. Slowly, very vague graphs about IPC gains and results compared to the 6900K began to come out. The benchmarks were definitely intriguing, but after the hype train, and at least in my case, the disappointment surrounding the RX 480 release, I was beginning to doubt AMD's claims and looking at the information as a marketing strategy. Now, that's not to say AMD lied. They didn't. But the data they showed off seemed to be very specific and only based on things like Cinebench, which is not a great indicator of real-world performance. And before anyone says it, I understand Intel is also guilty of the Cinebench numbers with the Kaby Lake launch. I'm not going to go into all my reasons, but I decided to go ahead and get the i5-7600K. I was tired of waiting on Zen and I was tired of my CPU bottleneck. I stated several times in my previous video that I hoped Ryzen would surprise us and be the product we all hoped it would be. But once AMD revealed that they would be taking pre-orders and wouldn't lift the review NDA until the day of launch, something seemed off. There was a huge hype created by AMD with tons of YouTubers doing unboxings, releasing specs, and just in general creating this odd hype for a CPU. I mean, no offense, but it's a CPU. Definitely not the most exciting part of a computer. So boom, the benchmarks have hit, and the performance is great in some ways and not so great in others, especially gaming, which is what I'm focused on. Gamers Nexus and several other outlets found gaming performance to be on par with an i7-7700K, and though AMD didn't lie about its capabilities, they certainly stretched the truth. A big reason for this controversy over why so many outlets have massively different benchmarking results is AMD's suggestion of benchmarking the games at 1440p and 4K. Many big YouTubers, including Linus Tech Tips, seem to take this suggestion and showed the R7 1800X being on par with the 6900K in games. This is a manipulation, plain and simple. By benchmarking in 4K, you are creating a GPU bottleneck which is showing the maximum capable speeds of the graphics card, not the CPU. Many, including Luke from LTT, have said, well, this isn't a problem because who is buying a $500 CPU and gaming at 1080p?
If you're buying a top tier GPU and a top tier CPU and then playing at 1080p, it's a little weird.
Sure, that may be true, but it doesn't excuse the manipulation. Ryzen is being touted as the CPU of the future, and in the future these bottlenecks won't exist at 1440p and 4K, meaning CPU performance will matter much more. In previous videos I've shown that my old FX 6350 does about the same at 4K as my i5-7600K with a GTX 1070. That doesn't mean the FX has the same performance. It means my 1070 is capping out at 4K and can't produce enough frames to show the difference in CPU performance. Even though the difference evens out at higher resolutions, that just means your performance won't be as good down the road. 1080p and 720p benchmarks like Joker's show the disparity in gaming, and while many say the 1800X was never meant to be a gaming CPU, they're right. The 1800X and R series in general looks like an amazing price point for content creation and things like code compiling and certain render tasks. But the marketing showed off game demos and piggybacked onto its gaming audience. AMD needed to come back in a big way, and they seemed to be attempting to manipulate their users and the YouTubers they watch. It seemed odd to me from the start that they were comparing themselves to the 6900K. I have never in my regular life met someone who had the kind of cash to buy a $1,000 CPU, let alone a $500 one. I understand you want to show off your best, but in my opinion AMD's market has always been towards the more budget-conscious audience. The hype surrounding Ryzen is the single cause of the controversy, and now it seems everyone is doing damage control. AMD fans are talking about how it's not a gaming CPU, and if anyone thought it was, is dumb. Some people have even sent death threats to Gamers Nexus. AMD themselves tried to talk down Gamers Nexus review in a Reddit AMA and are blaming the gaming performance on a lack of optimization. And while it's true that games are not optimized for the platform, it's a poor excuse for the massive amount of hype it produced. Ryzen, with its incredible multi-core performance for the price, could be the leader in a few years when games are more optimized. But for now, they want to sell you on something that's hypothetical and not real. Right now, a 5-year-old i5 matches an i7 priced R7 1700. That's just the reality of the situation. Most people in the market for AMD CPUs care about gaming, and it's important to know the truth. AMD still can't seem to best Intel in gaming performance, and until developers learn to better utilize SMT and multiple cores, I doubt that will change anytime soon. Saying the performance is head-to-head at 4K is deceiving. Most people keep their CPUs for years and generally upgrade their GPUs more often. As we are already seeing, Nvidia is pushing graphics power to some crazy next level stuff with the 1080 Ti, and they don't seem to be slowing down. So in 3 years, when 4K is no longer an automatic GPU bottleneck, these Ryzen CPUs will suffer, even if they don't today. So look, in the end, we'll have to wait and see on the R5 series launching in Q2 to get a definitive answer. But I doubt the increase in clock rate will propel AMD into the lead in gaming. With less cores, you generally don't get more performance. However, as they always have been, they will probably take the cake in price to performance, and that sort of competition will be great for the market. Ryzen could really force Intel to get serious about multi-core consumer-grade CPUs, and could sway them to more aggressive pricing. No matter how you feel about AMD or Intel, it's good for the market to have AMD back in the game. As a customer of AMD's for a decade, I am disappointed at the marketing tactics. I think AMD should have been more upfront about what to expect and shouldn't be trying to manipulate the data. They should embrace the price to performance advantage they have, alongside the eventual promise of more optimized gaming with multiple cores. With live streaming and DirectX 12 becoming more popular, Ryzen could be positioned to bring AMD back in a big way. For now, I'll be sticking to my i5 since I only care about gaming. However, now that I'm getting into PC building in a big way, I doubt I'll ever go too long without an upgrade. So I'll certainly be looking at Ryzen in the future, and hope AMD is able to work out the bugs, optimize the platform, and deliver the performance gamers want. Okay everybody, that was my video for this week. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, I think you know what to do. If you want to discuss Ryzen without calling me an Intel fanboy, drop me a comment below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one in the future. Coming up soon, I'll be doing a video on Day of Infamy, and I finally started playing Horizon Zero Dawn, so be looking out for those reviews and more tech-related videos in the future. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.